Ladies and gentlemen, we've all faced moments where life feels heavy, where obstacles seem like immovable walls. But here's the truth. The walls you see aren't there to stop you. They're there to test how badly you want to break through. The first step is this: shift your state, shift your power. Think about it. When you're drained, slouched, and telling yourself, "I can't do this," do you take bold action? Of course not. But when you stand tall, breathe deep, move with energy, and decide to raise your emotional intensity, suddenly possibilities open up. Your physiology is the fastest lever to pull yourself out of fear and into power. Second, change your story, change your life. Every challenge is filtered through the story you tell yourself. If your story is, "I've tried everything and nothing works," you've already lost. But if your story is, "This challenge is my training ground, this is where I get stronger," then that same obstacle becomes fuel. Your past does not define you. Your decisions in this moment do. And finally, adopt a strategy that works. No challenge is truly new. Others have faced what you're facing and triumphed. The fastest way to break through is to model those who already have. Find the blueprint, follow the steps, and make them your own. Strategy without action is nothing, but strategy applied with the right state and story creates unstoppable momentum. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the breakthrough formula: state, story, strategy. Control those three, and no challenge can control you. Life isn't about avoiding obstacles. It's about becoming the kind of person who uses them as stepping stones to greatness. The way you approach any challenge begins not with the problem itself, but with the state you are in when you encounter it. Human beings are not machines. We don't operate purely on logic or knowledge. We operate from emotion, from energy, from the way we feel in a given moment. And that's why two people can face the exact same circumstance, and one will crumble while the other rises. The difference isn't intelligence, it isn't resources, it isn't even experience, it's the state they choose to step into when that challenge appears. Think about it for a moment. When you're tired, your shoulders are slouched, your breathing is shallow, and your mind is replaying everything that went wrong, do you feel resourceful? Do you feel creative, courageous, or strong? Of course not. You feel stuck, overwhelmed, maybe even defeated. That's not because you're weak or incapable. It's because your body and mind are locked in a state that cuts off your potential. But shift that state, change your physiology, change your focus. And the same challenge that seemed impossible suddenly looks like something you can handle, maybe even conquer. Science and psychology back this up. Your emotions are directly tied to your physical posture, your breathing patterns, your facial expressions, even the rhythm of your movement. Stand tall, take a deep breath, expand your chest, and your brain begins to associate that posture with confidence and strength. When you move your body with energy, your mind follows. It's impossible to feel hopeless when you are smiling broadly, breathing fully, and flooding your system with oxygen. This isn't about pretending or faking. It's about triggering the natural chemistry of resilience and determination that is already built into your system. Now, here's the catch. Most people wait for their environment to give them permission to feel good. They wait for good news, for someone to validate them, for circumstances to line up before they allow themselves to access energy, confidence, or excitement. But life doesn't work that way. Challenges rarely show up when you're ready. They arrive uninvited, often at the worst possible time. So the ability to command your state in the moment is the greatest skill you can cultivate. You don't wait for energy, you generate it. You don't wait for confidence, you step into it. You don't wait for clarity, you create it by shifting the way you move, breathe, and focus. This is why elite athletes perform rituals before stepping into competition, why leaders use music, movement, or visualization before a critical decision. They're not leaving their emotional state to chance. They're deliberately engineering it, and the beautiful part is, you can do the same thing. You don't need millions of dollars or special training to shift your state. You just need awareness and the willingness to act. Jump up and down for 30 seconds, play a song that fires you up, take 10 powerful breaths, or repeat a phrase that aligns you with strength. It may feel silly at first, but watch how quickly your mind begins to respond. Consider this: every major decision you've ever made was influenced by the state you were in. When you felt confident, you took risks that paid off. When you felt defeated, you probably passed up opportunities that could have changed everything. Challenges are not defeated by willpower alone. They are overcome by the energy you bring to them. When you raise your state, you raise your capacity to see solutions, to act decisively, and to persist when others quit. This is why shifting your state is the foundation of breaking through any obstacle. Because if you approach a problem from a powerless state, no strategy will work. But from a powerful state, even an imperfect strategy can move you forward. It's like trying to drive a car with no fuel. You can have the best map, the most advanced vehicle, and the clearest destination, but without energy, you're going nowhere. Your state is your fuel. It's the ignition that brings everything else to life. The next time you face something overwhelming, remember that the first battle is not with the problem. It's with the state you bring to it. You don't need to wait for circumstances to change. You can change yourself in an instant. Stand taller, breathe deeper, focus on what you want instead of what you fear, and you will feel a shift. That shift is your access point to strength. It's the signal to your brain and body that you're ready, that you are not the victim of this challenge, but the force that will overcome it. When you learn to master your state, you realize that no matter how big the wall in front of you appears, you carry within you the power to break through it. The story you tell yourself is the lens through which you see every challenge, every opportunity, every possibility in your life. Two people can live through the same set of circumstances, but one feels crushed by it while the other grows stronger. The difference lies not in what happened, but in the meaning each one gave it. Human beings don't experience reality as it is. We experience reality as we interpret it. And those interpretations form into stories, and those stories shape what we believe is possible. If your story says you're not enough, then no matter how much potential you hold, you'll act in ways that keep you small. But if your story says you're resourceful, capable, and destined to rise, then even in the darkest times, you'll find the strength to move forward. Challenges are not just battles with circumstances. They're battles with the narrative you've built around those circumstances. When people say they've tried everything and nothing works, what they usually mean is they've tried a few things that didn't work and then created a story of defeat. That story becomes the filter. Instead of searching for more options, their brain shuts down and convinces them that the wall is permanent. Yet if that same person shifts the story to, every setback is feedback, and I haven't found the way yet, suddenly the mind stays open. Possibilities remain alive. The obstacle hasn't changed, but the interpretation has, and that changes everything. Think about the times in history when people accomplished what others called impossible. At one point, running a mile in under 4 minutes was considered physically impossible. It wasn't humanly doable according to experts. That wasn't a fact. It was a story people believed. Then one man broke it, and within a year, dozens followed. The difference wasn't the human body suddenly evolving overnight. It was the story about what was possible collapsing. Once the story shifted, so did the results. On a personal level, every breakthrough you've ever had was preceded by a shift in story. Maybe you once believed you weren't smart enough, strong enough, or deserving enough, and then, at some point, you changed that narrative. You decided to see yourself differently. That decision didn't erase the challenges, but it gave you a reason to face them. It's not the events of your life that define you, but the story you attach to those events, and you are always the author, whether you realize it or not. When people hold onto stories of limitation, they often mistake them for truth. They say things like, "That's just the way I am," or "This always happens to me." But those aren't facts, they're patterns. They're conclusions drawn from pain or disappointment that have been repeated so many times they begin to sound permanent. The key is realizing you don't have to be loyal to an old story. You can rewrite it. You can take the same past and assign it a new meaning. What once looked like failure can become training. What once felt like rejection can become redirection. The story is never fixed until you decide it is. The challenge is that your story doesn't just affect your feelings. It dictates your actions. If you carry the story that you are powerless, you will act in ways that confirm that belief. You'll hesitate, procrastinate, or give up early. If your story is that life is against you, you'll filter every setback as proof and miss the opportunities hiding in plain sight. But when your story says you are resilient, creative, and resourceful, You will find a way where others see none. You will act with persistence, and that persistence will create momentum. The story comes first, the behavior follows. So when you're in the middle of a challenge and you feel stuck, ask yourself, what story am I telling right now? Is it the story of defeat or the story of growth? Is it a story that locks me in the past or one that pulls me into the future? That simple act of awareness gives you the power to shift. And once you shift the story, you shift the way you feel, the way you think, and ultimately, the way you act. Life will always present obstacles, some small, some enormous, but the greatest obstacle is not the situation. It's the story that says you can't rise above it. The moment you change the narrative, you change the meaning of the challenge. And when the meaning changes, the challenge becomes not something that breaks you, but something that builds you. You realize that you've been carrying the pen all along, and every day you have the chance to write a new page, a new chapter, a new destiny. When facing a challenge, it's not enough to be in the right state or to have a powerful story. You must also have a strategy that works. Energy and belief are the foundation, but without direction, they can easily scatter into frustration. The truth is, no matter what you are facing, someone else has faced something similar and found a way through it. Human progress is built on the accumulation of strategies, and success leaves clues. If you are willing to look, to learn, and to model what already works, you can compress decades of trial and error into days of progress. The mistake most people make when confronted with obstacles is to believe they have to figure everything out on their own. They think their struggle is unique, and in some ways it is. No two lives are exactly alike, but the patterns of success are universal. Whether it's in business, relationships, health, or personal growth, there are principles and proven methods that can guide you. The fastest path to break through is not reinventing the wheel, but finding those who have achieved what you want and studying how they did it. This doesn't mean blindly copying someone else. Strategies are not rigid formulas, they are blueprints. They show you the structure, the steps, the principles, and then you adapt them to your own life, your own values, your own circumstances. A strategy gives you a starting point, a direction, and most importantly, a way to move forward when your mind wants to freeze in uncertainty. Without a strategy, even the strongest motivation can burn out. With a strategy, even small actions compound into momentum. Think about how children learn. They don't start by inventing a new language. They model the words, the tone, the expressions of the people around them. That modeling is the strategy that accelerates learning. Adults sometimes forget this simple truth and let pride get in the way. They resist asking for help or studying those who came before them, and as a result, they spend years struggling with problems that could be solved in weeks. There's no weakness in following a proven strategy. In fact, it's the mark of wisdom. It's a way of respecting time, of honoring your potential by not wasting it on avoidable mistakes. When you adopt a strategy, you are essentially borrowing the roadmap of someone who has already traveled the terrain. Imagine trying to climb a mountain with no map, no guide, and no sense of direction. You might eventually figure it out, but it would take far longer, and you might get lost along the way. Now imagine having the map, or better yet, walking with someone who has already reached the summit multiple times. That's what a strategy gives you: clarity, efficiency, and the confidence that the path leads somewhere worth going. But here's the key: strategy without execution is useless. You can collect all the methods, read all the books, attend all the seminars, and still go nowhere if you don't act. Strategy must be applied, tested, and refined. Every plan looks perfect until it meets reality, and reality will always throw unexpected variables your way. That's not failure, that's feedback. A good strategy is not a rigid script, but a flexible system. You try, you adjust, you learn, and you keep moving. Over time, the combination of persistence and refinement makes the strategy uniquely yours. Challenges often feel overwhelming because people focus only on the size of the problem instead of the steps that can solve it. A strategy breaks the impossible down into the possible. It takes a mountain and divides it into a series of steps. Suddenly, the focus shifts from what seems unreachable to what can be done right now. That shift creates progress, and progress builds belief. Even small wins matter. because each one reinforces the story that you are capable and strengthens the state that keeps you moving. The beauty of adopting a strategy that works is that it transforms uncertainty into clarity. It doesn't remove the challenge, but it gives you tools to face it. And the more strategies you learn, the more equipped you become for the future. Life is unpredictable. What you learn in one area often serves you in another. The strategies for discipline in fitness may help you build consistency in your career. The strategies for communication in relationships may help you lead a team. Every challenge mastered expands your library of strategies, and that becomes your reservoir of strength. So when you encounter obstacles, don't just rely on raw willpower. Look around. Who has faced this before? What did they do? What principles guided their actions? Then take those strategies, apply them with energy, align them with an empowering story, and make them your own. When you combine state, story, and strategy, you become unstoppable. Your challenges stop being barriers and start becoming bridges to the next version of yourself, the version that is stronger, wiser, and more capable than the one who began the journey.